Welcome to the Riff. Today, the director of the Dream Center, Jody Dow, sits down with two key people to the Dream Center staff, Patricia Deck and Ashley Baker. They walk through what the Dream Center looks like in 2023. What does it mean to be help and hope to a community? What does it look like to be committed to the mission, but date the model? We hope that listening today is helpful and hopeful. See what I did there? I put an emphasis on and, just like the Dream Center's doing in 2023. Thanks for listening.
Well, welcome to this week's episode of The Riff, a podcast where we just get to chat about all the things that we want to. There's really very few boundaries, which I love. So I'm Jody, and I get to be your host today. I work full-time at the Dream Center, which is part of North Point. It's we like to call ourselves the outreach arm. Day in, day out, we're serving our community. And today, I have two very special guests with me on The Riff, Patricia and Ashley, who are both Dream Center employees. I'm going to let the two of you introduce yourself. Tell us, what your role is here and maybe something interesting that our listeners don't know about you. So, Patricia, you can go first.
Okay. Hi, I'm Patricia Deck. I am the director of the Hope programs here at the Dream Center. What was I supposed? Something interesting about myself they don't know? I am from the Boot Heel. Not really. I'm from a very small town in southeast Missouri. But Excellent. I've lived in Springfield for 20 years. It's great.
Excellent. And Patricia literally lives down the road from the Dream Center. So she's not only an employee here, but she's a neighbor, which I love. She's helped us learn a lot about the neighborhood. Ashley, tell us who you are.
Yeah, so my name is Ashley Baker. I am Patricia's co-partner here at the DC. I do help programs, and I have been around for a couple of years. I am born and raised in Springfield, so I too have lived in Springfield for about 20 years, Patricia. An interesting fact about myself that people might not know. I don't know. I guess it's interesting. People always find it funny when I tell them that I grew up doing gymnastics. So that's a fun fact.
I like to think that's why you're so flexible about things changing around the Dream Center.
Maybe so.
Is your whole childhood on the mat. So yeah. Ashley's also a huge Swiftie fan and had to request some PTO to go to the concert. So we're all really glad she got tickets. Otherwise, we all would have needed PTO from Ashley for a day or two, I think.
I probably still would have had to request PTO, to be honest. It just would have been a little bit sooner. I would have needed it now.
You would have needed, that reset day.
Yeah.
So I asked Ashley and Patricia to be my guests today to talk a little bit about how we do our programming at the Dream Center. Whether you are new to what the DC is all about or you've been with us from the very beginning, I think it's really interesting sometimes to hear the why behind what we do. And these two explain it so well. Patricia's role is new at the Dream Center. So you have been here for 120-ish days.
Coming up.
Came on in August, and really that was because of growth. So 5.5 years ago when we started the Dream Center, everything kind of ran through just programs. And we would have a program director, and they would do both things on the help and hope side. Ashley came on a couple of years ago, and her specialty, while she helped in every single program, her specialty is really the help side of things. So how do we interrupt crisis thinking? How do we provide fun and special events to get people connected to what the Dream Center does? And over the last year and a half, as a team, we started to feel this tension of the hope side, that ongoing education, those really big next steps felt like they were lacking, or we just didn't have the right attention. So we ended up hiring Patricia, and it has been phenomenal to watch now how these two work together to create this pathway for people at the Dream Center. So I want you guys just to start out. I mean, Ashley, you said it so well that you guys are partners in this because your programs feed into each other. Explain to all of us a little bit of Help for Today, Hope for Tomorrow, and how, what each side of our programming looks like. So Ashley, tell us about what does Help for Today look like at the Dream Center?
Yeah, so help programs are the front door to the Dream Center. They're really intended to be the crisis interrupter for a lot of families. So those are going to be things like our community dinners, our special events. They can be a one-time they can be a one-time thing for families where it's something where they've had a circumstance come up that has never happened before, and it's something that will probably never happen again, that they just need a little something extra this one time. And those are things that we get to help with on those days. And it may be something where they need a little bit of help every couple of months. But it really gives us a chance to say yes in those moments. And every time we say yes, it helps us build a relationship with them and get to know them a little bit better. So when we are getting to know them in those seasons that they need a little bit of extra help, it helps us lead them towards whatever next step comes their way whenever they're ready for that. Because sometimes whenever they are in the moment, that's all they can think about, and they just need that support. Sometimes they come in and they're like in crisis, and they're like, I don't want to live. I don't want to keep living in this cycle, and they're ready for their next step now. And that is where Patricia comes in, and it's really exciting that they're ready to take that next step. Other times that's not the case, and we just get to be that continuing support in those moments. So
I love it.
It's exciting.
One of the things we talk about here at the Dream Center is this stage of readiness, that when people first meet Dream Center programming, they're often needing and wanting help. And we have the unique opportunity at the DC to play on both the help and the hope side of things. A lot of nonprofits will end up specializing in one. They will either be a help type of organization and they will be full of resource and opportunity. Others will be full of education, and their opportunity comes on that side. And so we get the rare opportunity in town to really provide both sides of that. And it's that stage of readiness that shows us when someone's ready to cross over from just kind of receiving help, building relationships, getting their feet under them into then our hope programs. Patricia, tell us a little bit about what hope programs entails.
Absolutely. Well, so the core of the HOPE programs is really the RISE program. So reaching independence through support and education. And so it's pretty intense. So again, that stage of readiness, we want families to be ready to make a difference in their life, to be ready to stop living paycheck to paycheck. It's RISE is 16 weeks. So they come together once a week for education. And then after the 16 weeks, we really encourage them to maintain in the program for up to 12 months. We'll continue to offer more in-depth education. From everything from, how to create your budget and maintain that budget, how to get out of debt, boundaries, those types of life skills, parenting, just really the gamut that are going to give them stability. And probably the one thing with the RISE program I've seen such a benefit to those participating currently is the relationships they're building. So again, that social capital that we talk about, the families, they've established friendships. They have a text group. So when somebody's in need, they just put it out there, and then another family will come and meet that need or provide ideas and support and resources. So really, that's the core. But we want to feed families into that program because there aren't families maybe that are quite ready for that intense 16 weeks, and so we're offering other types of education classes in between times. So it might be on just a basic budgeting or basic parenting skills, or again, healthy family boundaries, maybe a class on that. And so getting families then into those classes to set them up for 2 to 4 weeks, get to know them, build those relationships. So then we can hopefully then recruit them into the RISE program for more stability.
Yeah. And one of the things for stage of readiness that we look at is the accountability piece. Mm-hmm. So how do you know someone is at a stage of readiness? Oftentimes it comes not only from their own excitement, but then from the follow-up of being accountable to what's happening. And that is where those feeder classes are huge, mm-hmm. because if they can come for 2 weeks, great. Now can they build the stamina to commit to something for 4 weeks? Yes. After 4 weeks, are they ready for that big jump into really finding stability in each and every way? One of the things I love is the cohort that's going on right now with RISE is one of the best examples of social capital I've ever seen. Patricia, can you explain to us what social capital is? Because there's a lot of people who've never heard this term.
Yeah. I guess to me the simplest way is it's support. It's that community support beyond and outside of family and maybe the friends you've had your whole life, but healthy relationships that you can build with others, and including relationships then with other not only people but agencies within Springfield. And so again, when I talked about the families are able to say, hey, did you know you could go to X agency and get this need met? So they've built that social capital. There's that support network that you don't have to go out and have all the answers or find all the answers yourself, that you have those around you that are going to support you in doing that.
Yeah, this cohort specifically has been such a beautiful example of social capital. Everything from helping pick each other's kids up from school when transportation is an issue, to I saw one of them the other day set a list of free holiday activities to do with your family. Of here are all the free things in town, so that this is the day when Jordan Valley's doing free ice skating, and get your kids out and just encourage each other too of how to participate as a family. And then what I loved is they were like, let's go together. Yes. So a lot of them are single moms, and that support of I know you want to do things with your kids, but it can be hard when you're outnumbered. So if we all go together, does that help? Or even at a community dinner a couple weeks ago, one of them dropped their baby off to one of the moms who was already inside, so that then she could go through the rest of the check-in process, and her little kiddo didn't have to wait in line, because she knew after a long day that was going to be hard. And they're saving seats for each other. They're watching out for each other. It has been so fun with this cohort to watch that social capital piece. Really, really interesting. And then you talked about one of those facets of stability is actually setting healthy boundaries. And I did not know that the lesson a couple weeks ago was boundaries, but all of a sudden I start noticing each one of them posting on Facebook something about a healthy boundary of I used to allow people to use me or walk all over me, and now this is my intention going into the holiday season. And so I ended up asking some of your facilitators, I was like, hey, what was the lesson 2 weeks ago? And they said healthy boundaries. And just watching, like, man, they got that one. They understood it. I think all of us could use that lesson, and especially going in to holiday seasons when you're just around a lot of people. But have loved seeing how having a staff person committed to that area has really helped that cohort grow and those classes grow as well. So really, really fun for me. We talk a lot at the Dream Center about, like our goal and our job is to help families regain stability. And we're doing that through both help and hope. Talk to me a little bit about how each of your program focuses hit some of those stability markers. And, there are 10 national stability markers that we talk a lot internally. None of these are rocket science. It's things like resolved legal issues, education, transportation, safe housing, access to both mental health and physical health resources, accountability, budgeting, and financial planning. It's things that you wouldn't look at them individually and think, man, that makes or breaks a person. But when you line these 10 stability factors up and you knock a few of them out, it becomes very easy to understand why some people are just having a hard time getting their feet under them. So I know in RISE, we call them self-sufficiency markers, and we break those down a little more, but all of your programs are dealing with those stability markers. So Ashley, tell us a little bit about how the help side is introducing people to those stability markers and how that's then helping feed them into hope.
Yeah. So, one of them, it's easy. It's nutrition. So community dinner, we really focus on building out like well-balanced menus. I know Jennifer Kennedy, she works really, really hard on menu planning and making sure that we are serving nutritious and nutrient-dense food for families week in and week out at community dinner each week. So that is a great example of utilizing the stability factors in help programs. We also do special events. So we throw a block party every quarter here at the Dream Center, and we pay close attention to inviting community partners in. We plan who we invite in very carefully. We want to make sure that when we are inviting partners in, we are inviting in people who are going to hit those stability factors. So we want to make sure that we probably won't hit all 10 at every block party, but we want to make sure that we hit all 10 in a year. So we want to make sure that there is a representative for housing at a block party every year, that there's somebody for parent education and for childcare and transportation. So we want to make sure that we're providing resources on all of those stability factors throughout the year at parties at the Dream Center, so that families can associate those organizations with the Dream Center, because we've already built relationship with them, with our families. And so whenever they may not need those resources now, but somewhere down the line, if they find themselves in need of housing education, they can say, oh yeah, I've already met this organization. I met them at the Dream Center, and they have more familiarity with them when the time comes that they may need that resource. So
yeah, so the help side's really all about access to those stability factors and organizations or people that can help them with that. Whereas the hope side is all about the application of those stability factors. And that, again, is how your two programs feed into each other. Is we give people access, it leads to a stage of readiness through relationship, and then now we're applying those. And that's how we move from instability to stability. So Patricia, you have, even outside of your time at the Dream Center, you have years of social work experience that was all in this realm. So walk us through kind of how someone starts applying these and what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, I mean, when even Ashley and her programs identify folks that could use the help, a lot of, you just hit it, it's the relationship, right? So I might reach out to that family just to say, hey, this is who I am, and this is what I do at the Dream Center. I would love just to get to know you and to offer a little bit further support. So I think the key component is going to be them trusting us, right? Them trusting me that I'm a safe person, that really I am just here to support them. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to preach to you. I just simply want to get to know you, and how can I help? And so that, I think, will put them on that pathway to become ready. And so then it is then offering things that they may be interested in. So asking the families, even, what education pieces can we give you, or what can we provide you on that hope side of things that's going to even get you a little more ingrained into the Dream Center. And I think a lot of times, a great example is the classes I held in November. One of the moms, she thinks she's ready. She wanted to come to Rise, but we're already in the midst of it. And so she'll come in February. However, I'm like, I have this. Why don't you come in and have dinner with us on Wednesday night and get to know us? And she did. She came to the parenting class, and now she is really ramped up to come to Rise in February, which I'm excited about. And for her, I'm going to continue to reach out and just continue to have conversations with her until we can start those classes in February. And so I think it's meeting them where they're at. Right. There are probably just a couple of members that were in this current cohort. Maybe they weren't 100% ready in those first few weeks, but the more that they continue to have the commitment to come and show up weekly and building those relationships with each other, now it's the best part of their week. And so maybe not all of them have completed budgets quite yet, but we're going to get there, because we're going to continue to maintain for these next 12 months. And I know by the end of 2023 that they're all going to be really rocking out those budgets and their family life, and they're going to be stable. But there are tough weeks in the sense with our families that you're going along and everything's smooth sailing, and then boom, you hit that bump, right? But I think the most precious thing to me is that we all can support them, and they can support each other. They hit the challenges, but they overcome them, and then they continue on.
Whereas before, those challenges would have been the period in the sentence.
Done.
It would have felt done.
Done. Yep.
Yeah. So they truly are getting to be overcomers, and learning that sometimes that creates a need for community, and how do we rely on it? And then also what I love is watching them become more confident in their own ability of people who had just been so beat down by life that they lost the confidence that they could solve their problems. And so it is that balance of social capital and leaning on others to help you. And then also knowing that I can do this and balancing those two. So as a team, we've been talking a lot, our little catchphrase has always been help for today and hope for tomorrow. And this big idea that going into 2022, our focus as a team is on this idea of and, that in between the sentences, help for today, hope for tomorrow, that there is the word and in there, that to best function as an organization, to best serve our mission and our vision is to be able to help families move through both sides of programming. And some of that comes with growth. And I think it will be cyclical. There will be years where our focus is more on hope, where we've got families who are ready and we really need to build in and focus more of our time, our efforts, our energy into the hope side. There will be years, and we've had years, where the focus is on the help side of we need to be meeting people, we need to be building, we need to be growing. And really going into 2023 at the Dream Center, the focus is on the and. It's on creating the pathway. It's creating between the two of you programs that are feeding into each other, that just because someone is in Rise does not mean that they're not utilizing help programs anymore. It probably means they're utilizing them more wisely. They're knowing when to use neighbor to neighbor. They're knowing when to utilize dinner. They're knowing what things at a block party they should be popping into. And so when we talk about the and, what does that mean to the two of you? Pop quiz, right?
Yeah.
It's not hard at all with me sitting across the table answering this.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about this because, coming out of kind of the COVID era, we have spent a lot of time focusing on the help programs because that's what we needed to do. There were a lot of people in these past couple of years that have needed help that have probably never needed help before. And what that allowed us to do was to meet them where they were at and to build relationship and just have access or give them access to whatever it was they needed. But what that allows us to do now is it's kind of positioned us to have more next steps available for a lot of people. And we know that not everybody is going to take a next step just because we've offered it to them, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be offering them to everybody. So the special thing about the Dream Center is that for us, we're not just going to lay out generic things for everybody. We know the people that we serve. That's always our goal. And we can personalize it for people the more that we know them. And that's why in the past couple of weeks, we've shifted community dinners from drive-through back inside. And that's been it's been challenging, but it's really exciting for us because it allows us to sit down with people and get to know them and have conversation with people. And that's what that allows us to do is to really get to know people better and allows us to personalize their next step. And that's really the and for us for the help program. So that's really exciting for me going into 2023. So
Love it.
And I guess for me, it's to continue. So as you had mentioned, I've 120 days this week that I've been here, and that is actually that's the one thing though. That's something that I've been very impressed with the staff here at the Dream Center is that they know the people. You all know your families. Well, I guess they're my families now too. We know our families, and I love it because we can personalize it. We can love on them in the way that they need to be loved on and support them in the way that they need to be supported. And so I guess for the end, it's sort of that continuing. I've begun to lay out a calendar for 2023 for classes and what does that look like. However, I'm excited really to really begin to focus as well as those feeder classes. What are those families asking for? The ones that we're meeting at community dinner and we're talking to, what are we hearing from them that they would benefit from and they would be interested in coming here to learn about. So I guess that's my end is continuing to get to know these families even better, to personalize these services, the hope side of the services, a little bit more deeply for them. As well as then just, for me, it's continuing that rise, right? It was probably, my families are very gracious to me. I jumped in, the cohort started September. I'd been here 30 days. I had no idea what I was doing, right? But they've been amazing to me. So I guess for my end as well, it's exciting to start that second cohort, to keep the first cohort in maintenance. And so, and just continuing to add more people into this family.
So Ashley hinted at it, but when we started focusing and saying, all right, 2023, the focus is it is creating opportunities for people to really move from help and hope. They were there before, but a lot of it was just unclear of how do they make their steps, or we didn't have the right people in place to be able to make the referral over to Rise or to a class and have the follow through for it. So as we focus on it requires us to change, and change is the one constant thing around the Dream Center. So I would say at the Dream Center, we have 3 things that are constantly happening. It's help, it's hope, it's change. And sometimes that change is within our families. Sometimes that change is within us as a team of what are we focusing on. So one of the huge changes we've made recently is COVID forced us to go drive through dinner. And it was phenomenal. It met the need at the time. It allowed us to increase our service, to increase the scope. But one of the trade-offs we had is we had to fight really, really hard to create relationships. And I think we did it really well for a drive-through service. But at a certain point, when the focus becomes help and hope, then we knew that every single help program we offer has to include the opportunity for a next step. And as we started to review it and look at it, we said, I don't know that we are going to make our best impact keeping it drive-through. And we spent months talking about this. We literally, Ashley and I started this conversation in July. We made the switch in November. So for months, we looked at data, we looked at people, we looked at numbers, we looked at stories, we looked at everything around. And then we decided, let's shift it back inside for seated and see if we can't create the help and portion a little bit better. So this brings me to this idea that oftentimes can be very, very hard for people, right? Change, even those that love change aren't always comfortable in the middle of it. So it's this idea of we are married to the mission and we date the method. And Ashley, you have done an amazing job being married to mission, dating the method. And I would say that you get excited about fun change. You are a 7 on the Enneagram, so throw her a party and she's in. But that change is not always your favorite thing in the world when it's not just hey, would you like to go to lunch today? Change the lunch plans up. So walk me through a little bit about what does it mean to be married to the mission, dating the method?
Yeah, so this has been a little bit uncomfortable to switch things up. So you said we started having this conversation in July. Our whole team, we took a trip to a different Dream Center in Indiana, and their team said something that stuck with both of us. They said, we want to be the ones who are bringing comfort to people in poverty, but we never want to be the ones who are making poverty more comfortable. Mm-hmm. And that was something that just ate away at me for months, because I was like, well, hot dog, what are we doing here are we doing something here that's making poverty more comfortable for people? Because on a Wednesday night, serving drive-through, we would serve 300, 350, 400 meals would be going out the door. And it's easy to be excited by that because you are constantly moving. Volunteers have something to do the entire time, and they are thrilled by that. But as we are like putting down numbers, and we are trying to master the check-in method of how to do drive-through dinner well. We are, for the entire year of 2022, trying to figure out how do we check in the people that we're serving, and we couldn't figure it out. We are trying to account for all 300, 350, 400 people that are being served, and we couldn't. And I'm like, I just want to know the names of the people that are being served, because if somebody's not here next week, I want to know who's missing. And we couldn't figure it out. And so that is part of our conversation, right? I'm like, if we don't know who's here, we definitely don't know who's missing. And if we don't know who's missing, there's something wrong, because we can't follow up with people if we don't know that they're gone. So we are talking through the switch to, or potentially switching things back to seated. And we do the first week of switching things back, the second week of November. And there's like 50, 60 people inside. And you can just see the look on like the people's faces who have been here, like the volunteers, and they are just like, that was lame. And I'm like, you know what? It's the first week. Let's give it let's do it again. And like, it's easy. I'm like, it's the first week. People don't know about it. It's also like we were advertising to families. We're like, it's getting darker. It's getting colder. Let's bring things back inside. Easy to say, except it was like 70 degrees that day. So I'm like, shucks. So the next week, it's colder, it's darker, and I'm like, yes, this is going to be our week. And there was like 60, 70 people inside. And I'm like, oh, darn it. People are still like, this is lame. So it's then at that point, you're like, okay, this is uncomfortable. But you're sitting down with those 60 or 70 people, and you're having conversations with them that we never would have been able to have in the drive-through. Like our team, our staff would have never been able to stop in a drive-through and have 10, 15-minute long conversations with people, because we're constantly moving from place to place in the drive-through method, because things are just so spread out. And that's not a bad thing. Like you go from the kitchen to the gym to the circle drive all the way out to the parking lot, and that's just a far stretch in the Dream Center. Like things are very spread out. So we just never would have had the luxury of things being from the gym to the kitchen to sit down and have a conversation with people and get to know that that was their first time at a seated dinner, that they were looking for resources because they were new to town, and get to know that like there were things that they needed that night that like we had on site and we could send with them as they left. So there were things that like we could do that instant to help them before they left. So it was encouraging to be able to do something like that, because we had the time to do it. And that is why like we want to continue to be help, because it interrupts what things are going on. So yes, we were there to serve a meal, but we got to be interrupted in that moment. And that's the purpose of a help program. It's not to be constantly moving. It's not to see how many meals we can serve every week. It's to know who's there. It's to see what other things we can do to resource and to make them feel known, needed, and connected by the time they walk out the door. So yeah, it's exciting.
Ashley has definitely been stretched and uncomfortable, but one of the things I love is that each time we would talk about it, you're like, I am uncomfortable, but I still get that we need to serve the mission well. And it became this tension of, do we care more about the number of meals going out the door versus, as you said, knowing who we're serving? And if our goal is to help people find stability, then we've got to know what is making them feel unstable. Like, what is the missing piece? Is it food? Is it budget? Is it education? Is it opportunity? Like, what is it? And as we spent the better part of a year really trying to answer some questions in drive-through that we couldn't answer, we knew we had to make that shift for the mission. So was there anything wrong with sending 400 meals out the door? Absolutely not. It was amazing. I'm really, really proud of what you and the team pulled off through, as we refer to it, the COVID era, and an incredible way of resourcing families. But I think my proudest moment this year has been watching you struggle through making the shift, because you have had to go through all of these things that people feel when change happens, right? So am I sacrificing this volunteer camaraderie to better serve the mission? Yes. So now how do I take my volunteers on the mission? How do we remind them that 60 great conversations is as impactful as 400 meals out the door? Mm-hmm. And then this last week, we saw a huge boost in numbers because it was grocery distribution. And so we're seeing that is a high need of families. And our service numbers were much higher while still including relationship building. So this last Wednesday, I saw 2 separate families that we have not seen for the better part of 2 years, because they walk or they ride the city bus. So a drive-through setting did not work for them. So to be able to see them this week and to sit and talk with them, what has changed in your family? Where have you made progress and we can celebrate? Where are you feeling stuck that we can help make connections for? Was such a great reminder that, there may be a season that comes again that drive-through better serves the needs of our family, and we are happy to do that. Mm-hmm. And there may be seasons where sitting down and shoulder-to-shoulder time is what best serves our families, and so that's what we will do. At the end of the day, it's to help people move from help to hope. And that's what we're committed to. And so we will struggle, we will feel the tension, we will feel uncomfortable with everything in between to find the right method. And it's one of the things I'm so proud of you for, Ashley, is that you will wrestle with that tension to find the method that best serves the mission, and that you are willing to understand that as times change, as people change, our methods also have to be willing to move. So incredible growth in you. And I mean, relationships in general are that, right? So you're married to the vision of your family. You're married to the vision of what you want in a future spouse. And yet the method of what we use, your calendar method of how do you plan your family time, that changes. All the methods can change, yes. But we have to stay committed to that central thing that really, really matters and makes our organization. Mm-hmm. So we've talked a lot about help and hope. One of the things you guys have both mentioned too, as we've talked today, is you've mentioned the idea of volunteers and people that are involved. So tell us, how is some of the best ways or easiest ways for volunteers to get involved in your areas? And for people who, we talk a lot, time, talent, treasure. Some people have time to volunteer. Some people have a talent that they can share with us that helps, whether it's teaching a specialty class or fixing something around the building. And some people share best with the Dream Center through their treasure. So tell me, how can someone get involved? And then what is a need in your area of programming that someone could just supply for you if time is not their luxury right now, but they have the treasure to be able to give?
Yeah, so help programs are super easy to get involved with. They can be as simple as a one-time opportunity to volunteer. You can hop in on a Wednesday night one time. We have special events that happen once per quarter, so you can hop into those as a one-time serve opportunity, or it can become a regular occurrence in your schedule. We have a great group of volunteers who serve with us just about every Wednesday night. They are a special group of people, and it's almost like a neat small group that meets on Wednesdays. So it's a fun opportunity. You can find the sign up for those on our website all the time. It's also, we're coming up on a new year. So we do every year a campaign called Winner, Winner, Adopt a Dinner. So for $300, you can sponsor a dinner. So you can do that on your own. You can do that with an organization or with a group of friends. It's super easy to get involved and see a really tangible impact in your community that way. So those are really simple ways to get involved in HELP programs.
Love it. Patricia?
Okay, for HOPE programs, for me, I mean, if you have the time, I would love to have folks that or maybe they have an expertise or a passion about a certain topic. I'm going to be looking for folks to come in and lead my new classes after the first of the year. So it might be that you're really great at setting boundaries, and so you would love to come in and to teach families about that, about healthy boundary setting. So that would be awesome. But also, I'm just looking to even build. We talked about social capital. So again, continuing to build support and social capital around the families on the HOPE side of the programming. So it might be that you're a handyman, and so I could call upon you to come and maybe fix a window at one of the family's houses, or to change a door lock, something simple like that. Or I have had a family with a flat tire not too long ago. I don't know how to change a flat tire, but would love to have somebody that did. So that could be the time portion. But again, if you're limited on time, as far as treasure goes, I'm looking at setting up an incentive program after the first of the year for my families. So ways that I can help support them to make things a little bit easier. So it might be a gas card, or maybe a gift card to go to Walmart and buy groceries, because we know how expensive those groceries have become. And so just a donation of those types of items, or just monetary, just giving $20-$25 is awesome too. But yeah, that for me, that's what you could do for the HOPE side of things.
Yeah, so one of the things I love about Dream Center is we have so many different ways for someone to get involved. So if you're looking to invest your time, your talent, your treasure, our team is excited to help you find that space going into a new year. We know those are oftentimes the conversations of where will my time go, where will my treasure go, and everything in between. So I am so proud of the work the two of you are doing. AB, Patricia, brand new to be able to pull you guys together and say, hey, we want these programs to feed into each other. We want it to flow. We want it to not be two separate sentences. We want it to be a compound sentence, help for today and hope for tomorrow. And the two of you have worked so hard at finding that and creating those opportunities for families. We're gonna end here in just a moment, but I would be lost if I did not give the two of you a chance to tell a really great story that has come from your areas lately. There are so many things to celebrate. And I know, Patricia, you and I celebrated the other day a mom who, when she started with us, had no budget, she didn't even have 2 nickels. So there was no rubbing them together because there were no nickels to be found. Yeah. And now she's on pace that in 2023, she should be able to put an offer in on a house. Absolutely. And this is incredible, you guys. If you could have seen where the lack of budget started to where she's at today, just the diligence she has had towards working towards that goal. So I know there's so much that we celebrate internally all the time, but not everyone listening to the Riff is in all of our team meetings. So please tell me your favorite story from this last season.
Okay, I'll go.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of friends that they've been around the Dream Center for a while. And when I first met them, they were not my biggest fans. But I think it's just because they were new to the Dream Center and they were a little bit uncomfortable. But they showed up to community dinner every week, and this was like OG community dinner. So this was pre the drive-through era. This is when we did seated all the time, right? And so they showed up every week. They were very consistent. They've probably utilized every single HELP program that we have. So when you talk about stage of readiness, they weren't quite there yet. And they, through all of the COVID days, have needed a little more help than most, because they are some of the most kind and caring and generous people I know. They will give anything that they have got to support the people in their life that they care about. And even when they have nothing to give, they're still going to give it. They've got so many extra kiddos that live in their house. So they utilize all of the HELP programs that we have, and they have used all of their neighbor-to-neighbor visits that they could use for the year, right? So when we talk about stage of readiness, they aren't quite ready for any of the HOPE programs that we have to offer. But we had a community dinner, a couple of weeks ago, where they called us that day, and, they're out of neighbor to neighbor visits for the year. They called us during the day, and they're like, is there anything that you can do to help? Because we just really could use some extra trash bags and shampoo and conditioner. And I said, you know what, let me sit down and talk with Patricia. Let me see if there's any other organizations in town that we know of that could support these things that you're looking for, because we have these restrictions on these programs for a reason. And we know that, like, if we say yes this time, there's going to be more asks in the future, right? Mm-hmm. So me and Patricia sat down, we brainstormed a list of reasons or resources, and we knew that they were coming to dinner that night, and we would sit down and talk with them. And when we sat down and chatted with them that night, we were able to get them plugged in with Patricia. So they're not going to necessarily hop in on Rise, but they are going to sit down and meet with her this week, right? Mm-hmm. Sometime. And just like be willing to have conversation with her is like a next step for them, because they have spent years building relationship here at the Dream Center, and just the idea that like they're ready to sit down and have conversation about boundaries and have conversation about like where their things are going and things like that is huge for them. So I'm really excited for them, and that was just kind of a huge moment. So I was really excited about that for them. So it was great.
It was great.
And I'm excited for them this week. So
I can't wait to meet with them again.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, going back to that flat tire, that actually happened to one of our single moms. It was during the weekend. And so they had reached out to another Rise member to say, oh my gosh, this is what's going on. It was on a Sunday. She's like, if I don't get this tire fixed, I won't be able to get my kids to school tomorrow. I won't be able to go to work. And so then that Rise member reached out then to one of the facilitators of the current Rise class, and they were able to get connected to actually a Rise graduate, so that we know very well around this Dream Center. And so through that, he went over and he changed that flat tire. He put on the spare for her. That way she could make it to work the next day into school. And the funny part was she was actually set up to we had a tire donation for her. So she was set up to go get better tires that next day. So it all worked out really well. But I guess for me, I think that was a huge success, because with these families, we come alongside them, us here at the Dream Center, and we support them. And then they want to tend to lean into us and to lean upon us. But again, we want to teach them to fish, right? So they can have food for a lifetime. And so I don't want them always looking to me or us to fix their problems. And so that's a great example. That weekend they did it on their own. Yeah. I didn't have to get involved. I just get to hear about the greatness of it on Monday morning. So
I love it. Yeah. And a huge thank you. So many of our Riff listeners have donated over the last 5.5 years, or volunteered and have believed in the mission of what's happening here at the Dream Center. And so when you hear stories like this, I hope that as a Riff listener who has been a supporter and an encourager of this place, that you feel a part of it. And if you are looking to get more involved in the coming year, we would love to have those conversations and to meet you with that opportunity. Our website's one of the easiest ways to get involved, springfieldDreamCenter.com. You'll find ways to share your time and volunteer with a whole tab there and a forum that can help you get plugged into the right thing, as well as using your talents and your treasures. So thank you for joining this week of the Riff. Ladies, thank you for hopping in today. I know your schedule is crazy, and so thank you for sharing your time with myself and with some of our listeners. We will see you next, or hear you, listen to you. What's the best sign off for a podcast? I'm not sure, but the Riff, it will continue next week.
Have a question you'd like to ask on the Riff? Have questions about North Point, Christianity, or how fast Jeremy can run the 40-yard dash? Submit a question to the Riff at northpointchurch.tv/podcast. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Riff. We'll have a brand new episode every week, wherever you find podcasts.